In this video, I'm going to share everything that you need to know about SureForms. I'm going to be covering AI form builder. I'll also be covering all the advanced features that SureForms has. And this is going to save you hours of searching online how to use SureForms once you've purchased it. And talking about purchasing it, I'll add a link in the video description below. And I'm definitely sure that you're going to love this plugin. Anyway, let's dive in and let me show you how it works. So the first thing we're going to cover here is installing the plugin. So to do that, you want to come over here to plugins and then click on add new plugin. So here we're going to search for SureForms and then click on search. Right now, I've already gone ahead and activated it, but in your case, you want to click on install and activate. Now, here's the thing. It comes in two flavors. There's the free version, which is of course limited in features, and it also has the pro version, which has all the amazing features to make your forms really, really awesome. So I have both versions. So in this example, I'm going to be talking about the business version, which has more of the features. Now, if you want to take a look at that, you'd head over to sureforms.com, and here is the pricing and also the feature list. All right, so I'm now logged into my main dashboard. So when you log into your SureForms dashboard, this is what you get. And you can see here, I can download my main zip file, but I've already gone ahead and downloaded it. And this is where you'd get your license keys. And again, I've already copied my license key. Okay, so let's head over now and start installing it. So this time, since it's downloaded, I need to go ahead and click on upload. Next, I'm going to click on choose file, and here it is. Now I've downloaded it 3 times, but don't worry about that. I'll just double click on this one here, click on install now. And this now is going to install my business version, which has all the extra features. Next, I'm going to go ahead and click on activate plugin. And now my license is activated. But in your case, if you haven't activated it, this is where you'd go in, paste your license key, and then click on activate. And then once you're activated here, you are pretty much good to go. All right, so before we get started, I want to show you the dashboard, because this is where you get a bird's eye view as to what is happening with your forms. So here, I don't have any entries. That's because I haven't created a form yet, but that will show over here. Now, over here on the top, you can see it's giving us some quick actions. So I can create my form from here. I can view all my forms and so on. All right, so what we're going to do now is to create a brand new form. And there's a few ways you can do this. You can either do it from here, or you can do it from the side over here. But anyway, let's just do it from here. I'm going to click on create new form. Now, when it comes to creating these forms, we have 2 options. We also have an option to use AI, which is where you just go in and tell the AI what your form is about, and it will go ahead and create it, or you can create your forms from scratch. So in this case, we are going to build our form from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. All right, so now that we have this interface here, let's go through what you need to do first, and that is entering your name of your form. So I'm just going to call this Mac form. Right. So next, you can see here we have some sort of an interface, which is very simplistic, but trust me, it's not that simple. It is full of features. Over here on the left, we have this left pane here. These are your quick actions. Next, let's take a look at how to add all our fields. So to add our fields, we have 2 options. We can either click on this plus button over here, and this will open on the side, and it will show you all the fields that you can add. And when you hover over it, it gives you some sort of a preview as to what it's going to look like that. Okay. Or if you don't want to do it that way, you can click here on this plus button here, and pretty much it does the same thing. And also you can search in here. So let's say I want to add an email. I can just start typing, and you can see it drills down until I get my email. All right, so let's start by creating a page. But before I do that, I'd also like to remind you that it is very important that you plan your form first before you start building it. That way it just makes things faster. But in this example, I'm going to be building this as we go while I'm explaining all the features. Okay, so what we're going to do here now is we're going to start off with entering an email field. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Okay, now while we have this email field selected, let's say for some reason you want to change this to something else. You can just click on this little icon here which says email, and you can turn this into, let's say, for example, a checkbox. Just like that. So it's a quick way of changing whatever it is if you are designing your website. Okay, so we have our email field here. And if we need to add another one, we can just click here and so on. But before we move on to adding another one, I want to show you what's happening over here to the right. So if I select my email here, I have a few fields. I can make this required by coming over here like that. And then I can also add the error message. And I can also validate as unique if I need to do that. But I'm going to leave that as it is. Or I can enable confirmation by clicking on that. So, you know, when sometimes you fill in a form and it asks you to enter your email twice, that's just to make sure that you don't make a mistake. And if you do make a mistake, it will show you an error. So we also have that option here. So you enter your email the first time and then you confirm it here on the bottom, which I think is also a cool feature if you need to use that. But for now, I'm going to disable that. All right, so now that I have this selected, I can also go to the advanced tab here and add my conditional logic. So this is also something else that we can do based on conditions. So if I had quite a few fields here, I could say configure conditions, and the conditions will be based on a set of rules. So for example, I could say, in fact, I don't have anything here. Perhaps we can come back to this conditions once we have more options. Anyway, back to adding more content here. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, and this time I'm going to add, say, a text area. So with this text area here, it is quite important because you can do quite a lot. So for example, here we have 4 rows. Now, if I increase this, basically I am increasing the number of rows in here. And if I reduce it to 1, it now becomes one place that I can add, you know, pretty much a simple entry. Like in this case, let's call this name. So I want this to be a name field. And if I want to, I can also make it required by coming over here. So now I have my required field. So this can act as a basic opt-in. Okay. Now let's say I want to move this to the top. This is also drag and drop. You need to come to this area right here and drag it. Okay. So now it's at the top, or if you click on it, you can also use this little arrow here to move down like that. Okay. So now I have my name and I have my email address. Okay, so I can now continue adding all this as I want. So we have multiple choice questions here. So if I need to add multiple choice, I can also add this over here like that. So we have option 1 here. So let's say you want to give this a value. So we can call this red like that. We can add a new one. So let's call this blue. So you can continue on and add as many fields as you want. And let's just say black. And let's say the final one here is going to be yellow. Great. So now that we have all these 4, for multiple choice here, you can go in now and change this to a question if you want. Right. So you can see here, I've entered a question. What's the color of my bike? So they can choose the colors here, red, black, yellow, and so on. Okay. So pretty much that makes it very, very easy for, you know, people to choose. I can also make this required, and I can also play around with the layout. I can make this, let's say, vertical, but of course I'm not really a fan of that. And I can also only allow a single selection. Now you can see just by clicking that, this now has allowed me to let people choose just one option. And this is the best option for, let's say, multiple choice questions. So that's great. Now over here, we also have the column width. I can change this to full width, 3 columns. I can also change it to 4 columns. So it's pretty much up to you how you want to do this. If you want to save space on your forms, you can actually go with this option right here. Okay, so as you can see, you can continue on adding all the fields that you are interested in. But the most important thing here is once you click here, you have all your options showing here. So for example, if you go to advanced, you can also go to conditional logic. And I think this is the best time for us to showcase this. So if I click here to activate it, I'm going to say configure conditions and then select. All right. So I'm going to say if name is, and then here I can add the value. So whatever value it is. So let's say the value is Mac, right? I'm going to say set rules. So now it's saying show. So now it's saying show if this field is, the name is Mac. So that's going to show if the field is set to that. So this is how your conditions work. But of course, there's so many other, options you can choose or set as conditions. And you could also keep selecting more and more here to set your rules. Okay, so for now, I'm going to move on to the next item. Okay, so now let's click on this plus button here so I can show you other fields that we can add. So we can also add a URL here if we need to, and we can make it as a required item. And we can also add a default value if we need to. All right, so now that we have this, I also want to show you other features that we have. So I'm going to say browse all so that it shows me pretty much everything. I can separate my form here like that, and then continue adding more items onto it. So for example, let's say I want to add my text here. I can drag it below this line as our separator and then continue on designing. If at any point you want to delete, you can just come over here to the three little dots and then click on delete, and that will delete anything that you don't need. All right, so now that we have this information, I want to add a page break. So if I click here on page break, this will now show me over here that I have a page break. So after the page break, I can add more items. So for example, I'm going to say add more information. So this time my next item here is going to be an address, and here it is. I'm going to go ahead and select that. So now we have an address. Okay, so with this now set so far, let's see how this page break actually works. So I'm going to click on publish and then publish one more time. So now we have our form. So this is a good time for me to now copy the form URL here, opening a new tab and then paste it. Okay, so remember we created a page break. So you notice now that we have multiple steps here. So if I enter my name like that, email, okay, so that's my URL. I'm going to click on next. And now notice that this now has a check mark and I'm now on the second part of my form. And so this page break here really works great if you want to pretty much have your information go in page by page, because that way it then removes this idea of having a form which is so long from the top to bottom, which a lot of people may not really like. So this is a very, very good option where this page break just gives us pages to cycle through as we are filling in our forms. And if we need to go back, there's also an option here to go back just in case you may need to fix a few things. So as you can see, the UI here is really, really good, very, very easy to use. So now that we have our form, let's talk about the different ways that we can apply this form on our website. So the first way is to use this form shortcode. So it shows over here. And the cool thing about this is, let's say you're using something like Divi, you are now able to just take this shortcode and paste it on your website and the form will actually show. But in this case, I don't have Divi installed, but I'm just going to show you quickly how we can add this. So I'm just going to call this my form, and then I'm going to come over here to my block and search for code, for shortcode. There we go. And then I can just paste it here like that, publish it, and let's view the page. So now we can see that we have our form and this has been added onto our page. Okay, so that's the first way to do it. The second way is, let's say you want to add it as a block. You can just come over here and search for SureForms. And here it is. So now with SureForms selected, if I click on this drop down, this will now show all my forms. And in this case, I have Mac form. So I can select it here and then choose. Okay, so now my form shows right away. Now, do you see the difference? If I choose this option here, I can see the form right away. And with this option here, I can only see it once I've reviewed it. Or I've taken a look at the page itself. So these are the two major differences, but I tend to prefer this option here because I can go ahead and style this if I need to. So for example, I can say show this form on this page. So I can show it like that as the title, or I can disable it. And also I can go in and further customize this with the builder itself. So the third option now is the instant form. So let's go ahead and let me show you how that works. So I'm going to close out of here, and here we have instant form. So if I click on that, you notice that we have all these options here. Now this here is really powerful if you want to create this as a standalone form. And it also has a lot of features, which I'll explain in a moment. So first of all, you can enable it by coming over here like that. And if you want a preview of it as you're designing this, you can also select the preview. And now it's giving you an idea of how this is going to look like. So all this now is incorporated onto one single page. So this is actually a really, really good feature. Next, We also have our welcome screen if you want to add that. You see that? So you can add our information first, help us gather valuable insights, blah, blah, blah. But of course, you can change this to whatever text you want over here. And as you can see, it updates in real time. I've just added the name Mac here. So it is now updating over here. So it's up to you if you want to have the welcome screen. So for now, I'm just going to remove that. There's also an option here to add your site logo, and you can also change the banner background, or you can also add an image. So if you really want this to match with your branding, you can go there and select your color, and this will match with your branding. If you want to clear that, you can just clear it over here. But I'm just going to leave this blue here. So here it's also saying use the banner as a page background. So of course you can have the whole banner covering the whole page. So as you can see, you have more flexibility with this option here. The form width can also be changed. So if you want to make it slightly bigger, you can go in and customize it like that. So this is giving you a real-time view as to how this is going to look. Okay, so further down here, you now have this URL, which you can just copy. And this complete design here is what's going to show when you paste the URL. So there we go. So now you have your full form here. But the good thing with this is you are able to go in and make quite a lot of customizations, like the welcome screen. You can also add a background image. You can do quite a lot of things here. In fact, you know what? Why don't we add an image here so you can have an idea of what that's going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead to select files, and I'm just going to see if I have an image here. Okay, so I have an image of this car. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And now you can see I have the car right there in my main banner area. But if I want to use the banner as my full screen, I can always go ahead and do that. And now the car is in the background. So you can see when I mentioned that you have more versatility with this, you can go in and really do quite a lot with this. Okay. So the form background as well, you can do quite a few things here. If you go in here, you can change the colors, but of course you have to be very careful how you use your colors here, because otherwise you may mess things up. Okay, you can also add some transparency here, but you can see I'm really going crazy with this. You would need to go in and super customize this for this form to look great. Okay, so again, we can add a bit of transparency there if you want to, just to add a bit of a style to it. All right, so that is how your instant form actually works. And just so you know, SureForms also works on Gutenberg, Bricks Builder, and Elementor. So it has specific blocks in there where if you go in, you can actually select, like how I've done here in Gutenberg. So just so that you know that there's an option for that. So the shortcode is used in cases where your page builder is not supported. But of course, you don't lose the design itself and how the form actually looks. Okay, so let's say your form is designed, it's complete. This is where now you need to go in and make sure that you have all your settings like form confirmation, email confirmation, compliance settings, and so on. So you get those when you choose the main form. So as you can see here, I have got my main form selected. So this is where you're going to get all the information. So let's start off with our form confirmation. So if I click these three little dots here, this is where you can decide how or what's going to happen when someone fills in the form. So for example, here we have a success message. So as soon as they hit submit over here, what happens is they can either get a success message like that automatically, or you can redirect them to a specific page on your website. So let's say you have a thank you page. This is where you would locate it over here. In my case, I don't have a thank you page, but let's say I want to redirect people to a sample page. This is where I would select that, and that's where they would go. But let's say you want to redirect them to a specific URL. This is where you would come over here and redirect them to a custom URL. So for example, let's say you are an affiliate marketer and you want that when someone fills in the form, you redirect them straight to perhaps maybe the landing page of that actual product that you're promoting. This is where you would use this. So after they fill in the form, then they can go to a custom URL, as you can see in this example here. And then this is where you'd paste your custom URL. Okay, so I'm going to keep things very simple here. I'm going to leave it over here as a sample page, which is on my website. Okay, next, we also have email notification here. So you can decide if you want to get the statuses or the email notifications as people are signing up. So this is where you would set it up. I can click here on this little icon and this will give me more information. So the name here is admin notification email, and this is your admin email. But if you want to add a specific email, you can add a specific email over here. And then this is just your subject line, which says new form submission. So this could be new appointment or whatever it is. And then the form title. And then this is the data that you'll see when it's sent to you. And pretty much that's your email confirmation. We also have our compliance settings here. So if you need to add your GDPR, this is where you would go in and enable GDPR like that. And then over here, you can say never store data entry forms. You can also activate that if you need to. If you want to automatically delete entries, you can also go ahead and do that after a specific time. So let's say 14 days, you can just go ahead and set it like that. Next, we also have integrations. So integrations here are very important because sometimes you want that when your form is filled in, you may want to trigger another action somewhere else. Perhaps maybe you want to add the entries of this form onto, let's say, a spreadsheet. This is where you can use, for example, short triggers to achieve that. So to do that, you can just come over here and click on install and activate. So this now will install short triggers, and I can now connect with short triggers here, but I'm not going to do that yet. We also have webhooks. So these are also very important, especially, for those of you who are advanced users who know how to use webhooks. SureForms is compatible with webhooks, which is really, really awesome. Finally, over here, we can add your CSS code if you need to, but so far from how I'm seeing the forms, they are well designed. There's no really need to add CSS, but if you do want to do that, it's definitely up to you. All right, so now that we have all this information here set, I can go ahead now and click on save. Okay, I can do a quick view form here, and here is my form. Okay, so now let's head over. Okay, so now let's go ahead and fill in this form. So let's say this is John email. All right, so I've got my information here. I'm going to click on next to go to the next page. And here I'm going to add the address, which is 56 Birmingham. And then I'm just going to choose my country here. Okay, so I've chosen my country. I've entered all that. I'm going to hit submit. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because you can see now we set our page that it goes to the sample page. So this is how the redirection actually works. And in this case, we can see here that it has really worked, which is fantastic. So now when we go to SureForms, and we refresh the entries, because right now I'm on my forms, we should see now that we have 2 entries, but we can also see this information in our dashboard. So let's head over to our dashboard here. And sure enough, we have our information here on this graph, which is fantastic. The next thing that we can also do here is to go to entries themselves, and this will give you a list of all the entries. So you can see here, this is the Mac form. And it's showing us that I've just filled in this form, and I can click here and this will show me the actual form itself. All right, so that is how the entries work. Now let's head over now and create a brand new form. And this time we are going to use AI. All right, so if I click here on forms, I can go to add new form here on the top. And now let's click on build with AI. So this is where you'd give this pretty much a description of what form you want to create. Okay, so in this example here, I'm saying create a form for my tennis club to register new members. Now, I haven't tried this yet, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this works. But while we're here, we can also add as much information as we can. You can see here, it gives us up to 2,000. That's a lot. Okay, so far I've just added, 57. So we can also use a voice input. So if I click here, you can see I can allow this, and this will allow me to use my voice to give this instructions. And while we're here, we can also make this a conversational form, but we're not going to do that yet. Okay. So with this now, I'm going to go ahead now and click on generate form and see what the AI is going to build for me. Okay, look at that. This is very interesting, because it has pretty much put in all the information that I need for this form. Of course, I can go in and tweak it if I need to. So for example here, first name, definitely I want to keep that. Last name is fine. Email is fine. Yes, the phone number is very necessary. Date of birth is also good. The gender is also fantastic. Address is good. Wow. Okay. Emergency contact. I really like that because I hadn't thought of that, to be honest. So here we also have another emergency contact here as well. Here it has playing level. I hadn't thought about that too. So if I take a look here, it's got beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Okay. Membership type. It's also asking what the membership type is, and there's annual, semester, monthly, and so on. Preferred contact method. I hadn't thought of that as well. So pretty much I think this is really, really good. So the AI actually does a fantastic job of adding all the fields that I may need well ahead of time. So with this now, I can just hit publish like that and publish one more time. And if I view the form here, my form is complete. So that is how the AI works. Okay, so with this now, I can also go in and make some adjustments to my form confirmation here, just like how I did before. At the moment, when someone fills it in, it has the thank you message, but I can always go ahead and add a redirect if I need to, as described in the previous step. Here, I can also add my admin notices, and you can also add more notices if you want to by just adding that, but we're not going to spend too much time on that. Okay, so far so good. I think this is great, but as you can see here, this form is way too long, so you may want to separate this to make it easier for our members to sign up for this form. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a page break. So I'm going to come over here, add my page break here. And where else can I add it? Okay, in fact, I think I can just add it once. But of course, I can decide, how many times I want to do that. So now if I hit save and view the form, you can see now it has a break and it has these two items here. All right, great. So that is how AI works. So you need to make sure you can go in and make your adjustments and go ahead with that. Okay, so the next step now is conversational forms. Now, these forms are really awesome. I really love conversational forms. So let's go ahead and let me show you how to create them. So I've clicked here on this logo. It just takes me back to my forms here. So I'm going to go back and create a new form over here. And just like before, it's going to give me two options. And this time I'm going to say build with AI, just like how I did before. And I'm now going to activate create conversational form. So this is how you would create a conversational form using AI, but I'm also going to show you how to do it using the manual way. Okay, so now that I have this selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on generate form. And this now is going to go through the same process as it did before. And then it's going to give us our form. And it's going to be really cool to see how this is going to make it conversational, because I guess maybe that will be a better way of actually having this form. And it's a fun way to fill it in as well. So on the top here, I'm just going to add CONV just to remind me that this is a conversational form. And then I'm going to hit publish. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick preview here. And sure enough, we have a conversational form. This is really cool. So you can add your message over here, click on join now. And now it's asking for the first name. So I'm going to say Augustine like that. I'm going to click on next. And it takes me to the next part. Look at that. Isn't this cool? And on the bottom here, it's also showing that I'm at 15% done as I'm going through this. And then now it's asking me, for my email address here. So I can continue on as this is a conversational form, and this won't allow me to move forward if I haven't filled this part in. But of course I can always go back like that. So the conversational forms actually works out of the box. If you select that little icon on the actual AI forms. I keep saying conversational. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back, and we are now going to create a conversational form without using AI. All right, so let me show you how to do that. So we're going to head over to our forms, go to our dashboard, and I want to see all my forms. So I'm going to come over here. Okay. So this is the one that I've just done with the CONV. Okay, so let's head over to this one now, and let's add conversational to this form right here. Or in fact, I can even do it with this form. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead now and click on edit. So to activate that feature, what you need to do is to come over here to instant form. Okay. And here we now have the option for conversational layout. So this is where you need to activate it. Okay. Now this gives you, different ways of setting all this up. So we have this welcome screen here, which is pretty cool. We also have the site logo if you need to add the logo. We have the background color here and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL so that we can see this as we are designing this. So I'm going to hit enter. I haven't saved this, so I need to save it first. Okay, great. So let's see what happens. Great. So now I can actually add an image over here to the right, and why don't you go ahead and do that and make it look really nice. So what I'm going to do here is to add a background image. So I'm going to click here and let's upload an image here like that. Now what I like when I'm designing this conversational form is to enable a preview here so I can see what is happening. So you can see here now that on this side, I now have my image, which is fantastic. Okay, so I can continue on here and I can add a progress bar if I need to. And pretty much that's all I need to do. Maybe the last thing is to set my logo here. But as you can see here, there's more options here that I can go in and customize as I'm building this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save. And then over here, let's add the link. You see that one? Yes. So now I have an image here and this looks way more professional. I can also start by adding my name here like that, click on next, and watch the bottom here. It's showing me the percentage as I'm filling in this form. So I think this is a more creative way of having your conversational forms if you don't want to move away from your traditional long forms that people have to fill in. So the conversational forms here are really, really awesome. Now let's talk about integrations with SureTriggers. So let's say I want to integrate this form right here. I can always come to integrations and then connect with SureTriggers. Now I have an account with SureTriggers, so I'm going to go ahead now and click on get started now. So in my case, my maximum WordPress connection exceeded, but if you are using a free version, you can only connect, I think it's one site you can connect to, or you can just upgrade. But in my case, I've exhausted my connections. So this is how you would connect. Once you're connected, you can then tell SureTriggers what you need to do or what needs to be done. Perhaps maybe you want to take all these entries onto, let's say, a spreadsheet and also send your WhatsApp message and all of that good stuff. So there's so many settings that you can do with SureTriggers. In fact, I also have another video that I've done which shows you how to use SureTriggers. So I'll link that in the video description below just to see how versatile this is and how really powerful it is. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll leave a link to SureForms in the video description below so that you can go ahead and purchase it. I'd really appreciate if